But here's one thing that Antony Blinken has delivered. This is from Reuters. The U.S. has created a channel with Israel to specifically discuss concerns and seek explanations over incidents in Gaza in which civilians have been killed or injured by the Israeli military and civilian facilities have been targeted. The channel was set up after a meeting earlier this month between Secretary of State Blinken and Israel's war cabinet, during which Blinken expressed concern about the constant reports of Israeli strikes that either hit humanitarian sites or resulted in large numbers of civilian casualties. So more than 3 months in, 25,000 plus killed. And finally, Tony Blinken has managed to set up a genocide complaint line or feedback line where you can call Israeli counterparts and offer them some mild complaints or questions about the genocide that they're perpetrating with his support. That's what Tony Blinken's doing.
Well, that's not all. I mean, the State Department has to approve this sale. Israel and the U.S. signed a new military package deal that includes 25 F-35s, 25 genocide machines, 25 F-15s, and at least 12 Apache attack helicopters, 25 Hannibal Directive copters, and supply thousands of munitions, meaning the tank shells that are being used to randomly shell homes all across the Gaza Strip in a besieged enclave that has basically been transformed into a death camp where there are no tanks. This is the reward Netanyahu gets for denouncing the two-state solution that Blinken was presenting as a palliative to all of the entire crisis that had erupted under his watch. Netanyahu just throwing up a middle finger in Biden and Blinken's face. This is his reward. They're fast-tracking this arms deal to Israel. And it's not just to assault Gaza, it's to expand the war regionally to southern Lebanon and beyond. It's like a zombie administration. I mean, Tony Blinken's like a zombie. Just look at him.
Yeah.
Says he's Jew. He says he claims to play the blues. There's no feeling in there when he plays the blues. He didn't like Muddy Waters had to migrate from the Mississippi Delta to Chicago. He felt pain of dislocation and slavery. Tony Blinken gets up there and plays Muddy Waters, and it's like an AI bot could play like he plays, except better. Tony Blinken doesn't have anything behind his eyes. He's just there to represent this zombie system that cannot stop keeping Israel's financial feeding tube and its genocide machine rolling. And I mean, what is the purpose of listening to anything they have to say? Like, there's not, it really, remember when Donald Trump said he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Ave and the MAGA movement would still support him? Netanyahu could shoot Tony Blinken's whole family and he'd still authorize arms shipments to him.
Yeah, it's true. On the point about how Biden, the Biden administration, if they wanted a political win, they could push for a ceasefire and a hostage exchange, but they're not. Here's CNN acknowledging that this is a significant weak point for Biden's re-election chances, especially among young voters.
His patience is clearly running thin, not just because of what he is seeing on the ground there, but also we know the political reality that he's facing. We see.
So that's Dana Bash doing spin for Biden, saying his patience is running thin with Israel. Of course it's not. That's why he's continuing to arm and support it.
They always keep saying that.
Yeah, it's just, you're required to repeat that PR talking point of the Biden administration, that they're so frustrated with Netanyahu, they can't do anything about it. Their hands are tied, while they're still happen to be giving him unfettered support, all the weapons he wants.
And she's interviewing Barak Ravid, who's an Israeli reporter who's been brought to DC. He's actually an Israeli army reservist.
That's why he gets so many scoops.
Yeah.
We see protesters every single time, practically, that he speaks in front of an audience. Tell us about your reporting.
Well, I think that's exactly it. Biden's people, several of them told me that they want to do everything to make sure that when we get closer to the elections, what dominates the news is not the war in Gaza, because it hurts Biden, especially among young voters. And this is his weak spot, and they want to somehow find a solution.
His patience is clearly running thin.
Yeah. So
not just
So basically, the genocide can continue until close to the elections, because at that point, it's going to be it's going to make Biden too vulnerable. So that's like, it's a recognition, first of all, that this is hurting his political chances, but also that Biden sees his political fortunes as number one. He doesn't care about Palestinian lives. He's fine to let them keep dying until it gets too close to the election. Then maybe he'll finally call it off.
So there are problems in the Biden administration. And I mean, even to come in 2020 and work in the administration, you already have to be like kind of a soulless careerist for the most part, especially if you're on the foreign policy side. But, you know, a lot of the younger Biden staffers are getting upset. Yeah. And Jeff Zients, who actually knows nothing about science because he managed the pandemic response, helped manage it. He was the head of Biden's COVID task force and just lied and lied and lied. He's worth about $150 million. He's got all kinds of conflicts of interest, was formerly on Meta's board. He's the White House chief of staff. They say he's a Biden confidant. I don't know how you can be a confidant of someone who like doesn't know where they are most of the time, but he's basically a Biden. He's kind of like a Biden bag man. He's like a money man for Biden. And he moves the papers, controls the flow of paperwork. He held a morale boosting party in Washington 2 nights ago for young Biden staffers, and watch what happened there. This is an incredible scene. These are the staffers chanting, "Quit your job, quit your job." They look really happy to go in there though. Like, can you imagine them like getting hype on the dance floor after that? I mean, this is incredible. So I don't know if
that's a pathetic party. Morale boosting for the genocidal administration. That's a wow.
Well, the other thing is they know they're going to lose unless like the election's completely rigged.
Yeah.
So it's like they signed up for, like, when you work in the White House, especially when you work in the White House, first of all, you're not making a lot of money. You're not making as much as people in the private sector in DC, and you're working really hard. And a lot of the younger staffers have to work like 16-hour days, and they have to believe in a higher cause. And if they find out that they wasted all that time and they're going to lose, and then a Republican's going to come in, I mean, yeah, it does look good on their resumes to some extent, but it also kind of, it can be demoralizing. And that's what they get. They get a party and they get reminded that like they're just involved. They're implicated in genocide on their way in. And we also had the Biden, what was it? The UAW event. I mean, this is not good for Biden. Everywhere he goes, he's heckled. This is great. This is so, as Craig Mokhiber was saying, this is what needs to happen. This is a way of enforcing the ICJ ruling. It's so much better too than blocking working class people's commute and making working class people your target. This is what needs to be done, is targeting the Democrats. No matter what that was, it should be They're chanting UAW. Okay, but he was interrupted there. It wasn't as bad as I would say. It wasn't as was bad as what happened when he tried to hold this abortion rally. It was like kind of his kickoff event, and he was interrupted 13 times because of the Biden policy of administering post-birth abortions in massive numbers to children and babies in Gaza. I mean, he could barely get through that one. And then he tries to send his people to Michigan. I mean, remember Hillary lost Michigan in 2016. She didn't campaign there.
Yeah.
It's just such a decisive blow.
Yeah.
You know, these kind of like working guys in the suburbs who are just like, you know what? I don't really care about love Trump's hate. You sent my job overseas, and I'm just going to take a chance on this other guy is going to send jobs back, and you didn't even show up here. So Biden's like, I got to show up there. I'm going to send some staffers. And here's what happened. This is Yasmin El-Sabawi. We walked into the offices of the Arab American News in Dearborn, Michigan, which is a, you know, population center of the Arab American and Palestinian community. Just moments after Biden's campaign manager walked out, she was told the president is not just unwelcome here ahead of the election, but that he can basically forget about votes from the Arab American bloc. Basically, Biden is banned from Democratic hotbeds in Michigan. Dearborn's right outside Detroit. So, Aaron, I mean, I asked Jill Stein about her campaign and being a spoiler. And I mean, she made the valid point that most of the people voting for her, the vast majority, probably wouldn't have voted otherwise. They're not going to vote for a Democrat.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, the spoiler question, I think, at this point is totally moot. You know, AOC made a comment recently about how, you know, electoral politics isn't everything, and you can never expect your candidate to meet everything you believe in. And she's still voting for Biden, even though she disagrees with him on Gaza. But, you know, I mean, some people decide that genocide is a red line. Sorry. And many people are making that decision. And what is Biden's counter argument? It's that Trump wanted to do the Muslim ban. Okay, yeah, the Muslim ban was horrible. But even though Trump's policies contributed to all of this, he's not the one backing a genocide right now. That's Joe Biden. Biden is the president right now who's arming and supporting the genocide. And therefore, to tell people to not hold him accountable for that, you know, you're asking someone to reward a president who's overseeing a mass murder campaign. And I just don't think that's going to be a very convincing argument.
Well, my point of view is, aside from the fact that there isn't any hope in electoral politics right now, national electoral politics, is Trump is worse from my point of view on issues like unions, or, you know, if you believe in women's reproductive rights, you know, he's going to appoint Republican judges. And you look at the Dobbs decision, the majority of Americans favor a woman's right to get an abortion, control her own body. It's a civil liberties question. Then you have Biden's like worse on other issues, pretty much on foreign policy. You know, I don't know if there would have been this war in this Ukraine proxy war. We've talked about that a million times. But the issue for me and for so many people is about the hopelessness of electoral politics and the foreign policy duopoly, where the Democrats take you for granted if you have progressive views on other issues like class issues or civil liberties issues. They take your vote for granted, and then they just assume that you're going to vote for them while they go and do the most heinous things imaginable abroad. And they need to pay a price. They need to understand that they can't get away with it. And there needs to be a bloc that refuses to hand over their vote unless they believe in the candidate, or we're just going to be mired in hopelessness and nihilism will take hold among the younger generation in this country, which really doesn't have much of an economic future. So I think this is the moment to withhold our votes and stop the spread of hopelessness and nihilism in this country. If they're going to sell out Palestinians, then they're going to sell out the majority of young voters who are part of their constituency. They'll sell anybody out, and they have. And beyond that, it's just an insult to everyone that they're continuing to run Joe Biden and pretend that he's a viable candidate who's cognitively aware. It's an insult to our intelligence. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being insulted.